Congress on January 6, 2021, is rebuilding and regaining strength as Trump campaigns to return to the White House. And for the first time in nearly 2 decades, South Carolina Supreme Court will be entirely white. When a new justice is seated after next week's election, South Carolina will join 18 other states with all white high courts. 12 of those states have minority populations of at least 20%. And Evanston, a Chicago suburb, has been credited with launching the country's first government funded reparations program for Black Americans. Well, it has paid out nearly $5 million to 193 of the town's Black residents over the past 2 years. But now a conservative advocacy group has filed a class action lawsuit to kill the program, arguing that it discriminates against the suburb's non Black residents. And similarly, a panel on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit ruled yesterday that an Atlanta-based venture capital firm run by Black women should be temporarily blocked from issuing grants reserved for businesses owned by Black women, saying that doing so would probably discriminate against business owners of other races. And a climate group that has ties to Governor Jay Inslee of Washington State is running $1 million of television ads in Michigan and Wisconsin that aims to highlight Biden's record on renewable energy. The ads feature two Democratic superstar governors, Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan and Tony Evers of Wisconsin. They are among the most significant third-party ads to be broadcast in presidential battleground states so far this cycle. And childbirth is deadlier in the United States than any other high-income nation. This is according to a study that was released today, and it underscores the persistence of maternal mortality. In 2022, about 22 maternal deaths happened for every 100,000 live births in the U.S. Now, for Black people, that number rose to 49.5 deaths per 1,000. And 2 out of 3 maternal deaths occur up to 42 days after birth, highlighting the importance of postpartum care, which only some state Medicaid programs and private health insurers cover. And Sean Combs, the hip hop mogul who's been facing mounting legal scrutiny over allegations of sexual and physical abuse, has sold his majority stake in Revolt. That's the media company that he founded. The largest shareholder group at Revolt, a private company, is now made up of employees, its chief executive, and others, not including Sean Combs. That's the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time, and in this hour, we are going deep on a story that has been getting a lot of attention, both in the sports media world, in cable news, and definitely online. You may not be a sports fan, like I'm not the biggest sports fan, but this story touches so many issues that are so important to all of our lives. One, issues of gender bias, the gender bias and discrimination that women face, particularly in college sports and in professional sports. And then the issue of race, how players, Black players, are treated, particularly Black female players are treated versus white female players. I'm going to jump right to my superstar panel. Sharon Reed has stayed with us. She is our resident female Black voice for this panel. Ray Richardson, who is a sports expert and host right here at KBLA, is with us. And David Eichard, our resident Black history professor and expert. He's joining us as well. So this is a superstar panel. And I'm going to let you start, Ray. Break down for us what this debate is all about, who it involves, and how it all jumped off.
Hello, Reva. Nice to be with you. Good to be with you on this hot topic. Tell you what, in 28 years of the WNBA, they have never, ever had this much publicity. This is a monumental occasion for the league, and it's really for the wrong reasons. They have been trying to get PR and publicity for the longest to bring more credibility to the sport, and they've earned it. They deserve it, but I don't think they wanted it this way. This is not what they intended. This is not the game plan they had drawn up in the locker room. They did not want it this way, but this is what they inherited. Caitlin Clark, for all the haters out there and all the lovers out there, she really has become a trend-setting athlete, and we saw this coming. This is no surprise. She did some things in college that no one else has done before. She's the highest scoring athlete in basketball, male and female. So, and the fact that she is a white lady, I'm gonna put it there. She's white. Let's make that clear. No way getting around that. She is the face, and I repeat, she is the face of women's basketball right now, and she's going to be that way for a long time. So a lot of things that are going on right now against her and for her are really a sign of good timing for her. She came along at a time where her skills were more magnified than before. There's much more media going down now than it was, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. She has benefited from that, but she's not the only one. Her presence is going to, in the long run, help WNBA over the long haul, including all these sisters who are getting all this noise about how they're treating her. They will benefit as well. And it's a shame that they don't really realize that a little bit more. I don't think they would be throwing as much shade at her if they understood the impact of what Caitlin Clark has brought to the WNBA. You cannot put a price on it. They've been crying about not making enough money all these years, and they're going to make their money. They're going to get their shine with endorsements, shoe deals, and all of that. But Caitlin Clark has a big deal to do with that. And some people need to sit back and think about this. She's the reason why these girls don't have to fly commercial anymore. They got their own jets now. Every team can fly with their own private jet because of her. She brought it up in a preseason press conference. She mentioned that. And the next week or so, everybody got their own plane now. And they're selling out every arena. They're making money on top of money. Even in LA, when the Indiana Fever came to play the Sparks on May 24th, they had 19,000 fans at Crypto.com. That's the highest attendance for any WNBA game in the nation. It happened right here in LA. And she's been selling out wherever they go. The Indiana Fever, they've already drawn more fans after 5 games than they did all last year. So there's a win-win situation here. People are going to have to calm down a little bit and understand that this is a new era for women's basketball, and she's not the villain. She's not out here trying to throw shade on everybody. She's not a trash talker. She may have a fiery edge in her, but I don't think she's a trash talker. But folks have got to calm down and let this young lady play and reap the benefits of this. There is so much shine coming down the road, and if you're not careful, that shine might not be there. If we see this kind of behavior keep on going on, there's going to be some people thinking twice about it, investing in the WNBA. You cannot afford to let that happen.
All right, Ray, I hear you on that. I have to imagine that Sharon and David have a little different perspective about these Black women and what they need to do vis-a-vis Caitlin Clark. No denying she's the cash cow. She's the one, as you said, that's drawing all of this attention to the WNBA, creating all the buzz. And of course, the tide is rising with her. But does that mean the Black women have to take a back seat, be called thugs, and take the kind of abuse that some of these Black women, these Black women, stars in their own right, are having to take as a result of Caitlin Clark? And does this remind us of anything else in history? That's what David Eichard is here to remind us of. So when we come forward, we're going to let Sharon and David respond to Ray's comments about how Black players need to basically fall back and enjoy and reap the benefits that Caitlin Clark is bringing to the game. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580. We got lots to talk about when we come forward.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
What does it take to take on Alzheimer's? Awareness that nearly 2/3 of those diagnosed are women, including Black women. Dedication to lowering your risk by eating healthy and monitoring blood pressure. And confidence to talk to your healthcare provider about screening and early detection. You have what it takes to take on Alzheimer's. Learn about signs and screening at takeonalz.com. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Are you wet shaving? You'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops, I'm good with Gillette Skin Guard. How long you been growing that beard Mama hates anyway?
Since 77, I shaved and got ingrown so bad.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturizer. So I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
The best a man can get keeps getting better with Gillette Skin Guard. Buy now at a retailer near you.
Fabric Talk. Hey, it's me, your couch. Today's my favorite day of the week. Febreze Fabric Spray Day. The occasional deep cleanse are nice, but in between, you know I'm needing a refresh. Ooh, here she comes with the Febreze Fabric Spray. Oh yeah, spritz them armrests. Don't be shy. Nothing like a good spray down to get me smelling so fresh and clean. Don't forget my back. Nice. Febreze Fabric Spray. It's just that easy. Now we can both breathe happy. Febreze. La 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 la.
In this hour, we're talking about race and gender in sports, particularly women's basketball, the WNBA to be exact. 2 months ago, more than 12 million people watched the University of Iowa beat Louisiana State University in the NCAA tournament's Elite Eight, shattering ESPN's record viewership for women's basketball. The market broke had been set a year ago when 10 million people watched LSU beat Iowa to win the title. Sharon Reed, Dr. David Eichhardt, and Ray Richardson are joining me in this hour. So Sharon, Ray said those numbers I just cited about the number of folks that watched Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese play in college and the kinds of sellout stadiums that are happening as a result of Caitlin Clark coming to town is reason enough for these Black women to fall back and just ride this wave of popularity, as well as this new era of WNBA players starting to make money, not on par with the male players, but starting to make more money than they've ever made in the sport. What do you say to that?
I couldn't disagree more, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because if they just were to fall back and enjoy the ride, they'd have to say goodbye to a part of themselves and their own competitiveness. Caitlin Clark is a fabulous young player, and she is in the record books. But in her last outing, 3 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block, 3 turnovers in 28 minutes. She was 1 for 10. 1 for 10 from three-point line. Look, she's off to a great start as a rookie, but she's not God. This is less about this fabulous young player, Caitlin Clark, who can't help that she was born white, but she was also born privileged. And this is the same narrative. The other thing I disagree about is that this isn't what they wanted. This is exactly what they wanted, a la Magic and Bird. That is the way I see it. And if only Black women had protectors like, Sean Hannity, the minute Pat McAfee calls Caitlin Clark the B word. He jumps right to her defense and does a whole monologue on his show about how wrong and disrespectful that is. The same Sean Hannity that when Don Imus called the Rutgers women's basketball team nappy-headed hoes, defended it and did an exclusive with Imus and said, oh, just 15 seconds, nothing to see here. Angel Reese was fouled and grabbed by her neck, a real flagrant foul, okay, against the Connecticut Sun. And Alyssa Thomas kicked out of the game. Nobody's talking about that. Bob Costas says it's because that was black on black crime. Okay, there's a whole narrative here that is rooted in American history. And I love sports and was a sideline reporter for the NBA and NFL. And more than the X's and the O's, I love the stories and the way sports mirrors life. And in this regard, I think it does as well.
All right. Well, tell us what you think, Sharon Reed, sports reporter.
Couldn't help it.
I know I asked Robert to have you stay for a reason. I did not know. I didn't read your resume carefully. I didn't know you were a former sports reporter. So thank you, because as you can see, I'm fumbling through these sports stats. So I'm glad I have my sister here to help me.
Are you doing fine?
David, jump in here. Tell us. Okay, so of course, I'm agreeing with Sharon, and I'm more appalled by the way these Black women are being framed as brutes, as nappy-headed hoes. We might as well use that term, as ghetto, as thugs, calling that foul against Kennedy Carter an assault, like you would see, in the streets of the baddest, toughest neighborhood in Chicago. What is going on with the way mostly men are reporting about these really elite Black women athletes?
Well, I want to remind people, because Ray said earlier that Ken Clark's not a trash talk. In fact, one of the hallmarks of her rise was the fact that she was making these kind of gestures, taking them from like professional wrestling or boxing, right? And whenever she'd score a point, she'd make these gestures. I forget what the particular gesture was. And everybody was elevating her. Oh, she's good. She's got swagger, and she's a junk talker, and she's a badass, right? Like that was her hallmark. So when Angel Reese and they upset them in the final, LSU upset them, and she made that same type of gesture, somehow Angel became villain, and Caitlin Clark became this damsel in distress. So much so, right, that Jill Biden, right, the president's, first lady, literally said, well, when instead of just inviting the winner to the White House, we should invite, right, the runner-up too, which has never happened. So when white woman is throwing up all these signs, like you can't guard me and whatever, she's badass. Black woman does the same exact thing. She's a poor sport. She's on the white girl. Even though they lose, they should get, right, they should get the same type of invitation to the White House. This is privilege on steroids, right? This is white privilege on steroids.
So, Ray, you say, well, it might be white privilege, but these women now are getting recognition. They're getting big contracts. We know Caitlin Clark had a big contract. I've seen Angel Reese in all kinds of commercials. And we know historically these women have been woefully underpaid and undervalued. Do you have any concerns, though, at what cost this, this monetary, success that they're having at this moment may have, and the kind of racism that's being directed towards them, and the vitriol and the disrespect that these Black women are experiencing?
Well, nobody wants to see Black athletes get disrespected, and I'm all in favor of that. I've been covering sports for 44 years, and I've actually covered women's hoops a lot on the college and the pro level. I've seen these ladies come up from nothing and then aspire to get someplace and don't get there because they don't get a chance to play in the WNBA. And keep in mind, you can go back 30, 35 years ago when there was no pro league for them to go to in the United States. So they had to go overseas to try to make that money and make a career for themselves. Now we're seeing a development where the resources are so much better, or at least they're coming, where ladies don't have to go overseas and try to make that big money. And unfortunately, the Brittany Griner situation really was a wake-up call for a lot of female basketball players who used to go to Europe to play in the off-season to make the real money. You're not going to see that anymore. I got a feeling you're going to see that train cut off in a big way, because now with the WNBA being able to pay more salaries, higher salaries, more endorsements, more revenue sharing because of the gates are getting better, the gate receipts are getting better. You're going to see young ladies staying home for the fall and the winter. They're not going to want to go over there anymore. And I always thought that was unfair for women, in particular, black and white, to have to go overseas and risk their safety just to try to make a better paycheck. And so now we're seeing a really positive sign and a positive development. And this is not all tied to Caitlin Clark. Some of this stuff was in action before her, but she just kind of brought it to the forefront. But I would like to see, some of our young sisters get a little more respect, and they have earned it. And some of this categorization is unfair, and I want to say that this is not indicative of how the WNBA plays all the time. And I've seen some ladies talk really specifically about, this is not who we are, this is not who I am. We don't do this every game. This is just somewhat of a heat of the moment situation. But I will say this: Kennedy Carter's foul was unjust. That was not a basketball play. It should never happen. Whatever happened between her and Caitlin Clark on the other end of the floor should have been resolved before that. To get to this point is just unfortunate that we're seeing our young sisters get portrayed like this. I don't like it, and the other two panelists, I agree with them. This is unfair, and there should be some kind of a medium point to get to where we can all be happy and see this game flourish like it has a potential to do.
Well, let me ask you this, Sharon. Ray makes a good point, and it's a universal point that's unfortunately the reality of America, which is oftentimes you need a white person to open a door, and that minorities often, can walk through that door once it has been opened. And we know that white women are going to be treated differently in this country than black women. So is there any validity in, and Ray just said, obviously he's not supporting the pejorative statements that are being made about these black women and how they're being targeted in the media. But is there something here in terms of his argument that this white superstar, who legitimately is a great player, can elevate the game? Now, I don't know if I agree with him about the gate money translating into equity pay for women, because that's a whole nother issue about gender bias that we got to talk about. We'll talk about on the other side. But is there something to this? Don't let Caitlin make you a doormat, but enjoy what she's doing in terms of elevating the game, and then leverage and take advantage of it.
I say hell no. And I'm going to tell you why I say that, Areva. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? America doesn't need a white woman to open the door. That's just the indoctrination that we've been fed. Caitlin Clark is a great player. Diana Taurasi, great player before her. This is about a media narrative. I never heard of Caitlin Clark until all the hype surrounding the story. Like I said, the Magic versus Bird, the Fab Five with their baggy shirts, all black, freshmen, and their dark shoes, and Duke and Christian Laettner, Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed. It's on and on. It's over and over again. This isn't about Caitlin Clark. The league is behind this. The media is behind this. And they're saying, we got an opportunity here. Let's ride this. And Caitlin Clark, wouldn't it be great if women in sports had enough parity where Kennedy could foul her hard? I don't want anybody to get hurt, but this is how women play, just like their male counterparts. Sometimes they play like Rodman, and sometimes they play like Steph Curry. They're athletes. Men would say just like us, something Kobe knew, but we're not quite there yet. And all of this other noise to me is exactly that, noise. And it is unfair to the skill set. And I think what Angel Reese and other great Black players are saying is, give me a break. What about us? She's not even the leading scorer. She's not the star of the league. You turned her into the star of the league. Records stand. Yes, she's the most prolific scorer, but at the end of the day, she is a basketball player who doesn't have a complete game. Okay. The guys who have covered sports have admitted that. She doesn't have a complete game. She has a great game. And there just needs to be more perspective here.
Well, great white American hope. We've heard
Thank
that term used a lot, Professor Icard. When we come forward, you break down. We're going to ask you to break that down for us. What does that mean in the context of sports, and why are we always looking for a white savior? Whether it's politics, the law, medicine, business, doesn't matter. Americans love a great white savior. And some folks say that white savior in the context of the WNBA is Caitlin Clark. Stay with us. We got lots to talk about when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is going to help assess needs in Atlanta's water system. Mayor Andre Dickens, who is Black, says crews are in the city today as problems continue to affect the area around Midtown. A boil water advisory has been partially lifted for residents. Sean Diddy Combs is selling his stake in his media company, Revolt. Facing multiple lawsuits accusing the rapper of sexual assault, Sean Combs agreed to separate from the company he founded. Revolt began more than a decade ago, and to be a music industry-focused cable channel promoting Black representation. Spotify is once again hiking prices. The music streaming service announced Monday that its ad-free premium plan will now cost $12 per month, a $1 jump. The price hikes will take effect next month. They come less than a year from the last increases. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com. Stay safe out there. Have a great Tuesday.
Trouble downtown LA continues as it crashes in two left lanes of the 10 East before Maple Avenue, Los Angeles Street interchange. Right now, stop traffic is from 20th Street over an hour and a half. Also, as we continue on to the 110 north of the 10 Washington Boulevard interchange, a crash remains on the right shoulder, and heavy traffic continues from the 105 up to about 20 minutes. Making our way through East LA, watch for a stall in two right lanes of the 5 south at Gitman Avenue, Indiana Street interchange, and stop traffic continues from Highway 60 up to 20 minutes. And back in Malibu, a crash is in the left lane in both directions of PCH between Las Flores Canyon Road and Carbon Canyon.
Free is key during Craftsman Days at Lowe's. Right now, get one free Select V20 tool when you buy a Select battery 2-pack. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 6/19 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
San Diego Padres infielder Tucupito Marcano was given a lifetime ban by Major League Baseball for betting on baseball games. Investigators found that Marcano gambled on games last season when he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, including games involving the Pirates. In April, the NBA hit Toronto Raptors forward Jonte Porter with a lifetime ban for betting on NBA games. North Carolina Central's football team will have 3 games televised nationally this season on ESPNU. NC Central is a favorite to win this year's Black College Football National Championship. ESPNU is televising 11 games this season featuring HBCU schools. The schedule kicks off August 29th with Arkansas Pine Bluff versus Arkansas. NC Central will be featured on ESPNU on September 1st against Alabama State, October 31st against South Carolina State, and November 15th against Howard. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant Black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to KBLA1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Oh, man. Looks like Bobby needs a ride to the airport again.
Grab the keys. Who's taking Auntie and her friends to the swap meet? Grab the keys.
How about we drop these boxes off at Miss Johnson?
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, you're all about getting things done. So do it all in a Chevy SUV. From the versatile Equinox and sporty Blazer to the roomy Traverse, our lineup of SUVs will carry you through every adventure. All you have to do is
grab the keys.
That's how we do. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
When you're young, life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. But there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at ChooseMat.
All right, we are back, and I would say it's getting hot in here. We are debating women, race, and gender in sports, particularly what's going on in the WNBA with some superstar players. I've got the dream team on tonight: Sharon Reed, Ray Richardson, Dr. David Icard. Right before the break, Dr. Icard, we were talking about the great white hope. Americans, all of us, I guess, are always looking for some white savior to come along and, save the day for us. And we've seen that happen all too often in lots of genres, lots of areas, and sports is not to be excluded. So talk to us about why it is that has happened and who some of the examples are that we can look to that bear that out.
It's a great question, and Bill Roden, a wonderful book called $40 Million Slaves, where he gives this kind of really in-depth historical contextualization of exactly where that great white hope kind of dynamic started and how it was also prevalent in Europe. But to kind of, make it a bit more accessible, this idea of eugenics, right? This idea of like gene pools that make certain groups superior and make certain groups inferior has long been the hallmark, not only of American society, but also of sporting cultures. For example, we think about football and why for a long time blacks couldn't play in Division I college and in the NFL. The argument was being made that black people didn't have the temperament, they weren't moral, they weren't ethical enough to be able to participate in those particular kind of sports. And as a result, it wasn't about racism. It was simply that they were inferior in these ways. Then when they did enter into these sports, right, you think about how long it took before we had a black quarterback or a black middle linebacker. That's the quarterback of the defense. Those were in thinking positions. And they said black people didn't have the intelligence to learn the plays or the defensive calls. And of course, translated and who got the coaching jobs. Again, a thinking position or a position. So when we have these kinds of like notions, when we have somebody like a Caitlin come up, and one idea is that there was one white commentator a couple weeks ago, I think, who literally said, shame on the WNBA because the first 4 or 5 games that Caitlin played in, they scheduled her against the best defenses in the WNBA and made her look bad. shame. I was like, I literally was like, I thought it was when I first saw it, Areva, I thought it was a spoof. I literally thought it was a spoof. And then I realized, no, he's serious. This is the 21st century, and we're literally saying, why didn't the WNBA rig the schedule so that the Great White Hope could beat out everybody? And like, you guys are talking about the black women? Like, this is just straight up white supremacy. Like, this comes straight out of like Nazi Germany, how people were talking about white people versus black folks. So I think that we have to like contextualize what's happening and stop talking about, oh, revenue this and revenue that. This is about white supremacy, like re-narrativizing what's important, vilifying these black women, and turning like Caitlyn into a victim that she's not even responsible. These things are being imposed on her. These narratives have a life of their own. They've been around for a very, very long time.
And that's a great point, David. Sharon, in some ways, Caitlin Clark is a pawn. She's a pawn being used by white supremacists that have an and that agenda is to villainize black women whenever they can, to subject us to the worst kind of racist gender-based stereotypes, which is what we saw when they talk about this woman Kennedy Carter assaulting, using the word assault in the context of a basketball game. But tell me, now that we know your history, your rich and deep sports history, have you ever seen a situation like this where the player themselves would come out and say, cut it out, guys? This is competitive sports. This is the highest level of competition for women. We don't need to be coddled. I don't need to be coddled. Let's get out there, mix it up, and let the best player win on any given night. Don't set me up for some games for success. Give me the best players to play against, and stop pitting these black women against me. We're all women trying to elevate this sport. Have you ever seen that happen by a white player who's been put in a position similar to Caitlin's?
I can't give you the quote, but I, again, believe, as much as it pains me to say it, because I grew up a Sixers fan, that Larry Bird said portions of that. He was a beast who just wanted to win. He was sometimes called dirty. He was the biggest trash talker. And that's all he cared about was the ball, okay? Playing basketball and getting the championship win. I do think that if you pay attention to the trolls, and in some cases, the trolls are in the mainstream media, okay? You would think that the black women in the WNBA just broke out of prison, okay? And are gang members, and their tats really mean something, because that is what we're doing here. And there's another component of it, because again, they're using words like butch, and we're being told things like, audiences don't want to see those kind of, angry black women whose sexuality is in question. And remember, we had little articles written in other spots about Caitlin Clark and her beautiful boyfriend and how long they've been together and developing the whole person. She did not ask for any of that. And I do think it's important to note that. I think you're dealing with another, I hate to use that stereotype again, but a female Larry Bird, because the doctor's right. She was doing so much trash talk and antagonizing her opponents. That was her. And that gives us some insight, and God bless her for it. Who cares? This is about competitive basketball. And she's allowed to be all of those things, but it's this American narrative, and yes, white supremacy and even misogyny that wants to keep her in this narrow box and cast everybody else as the villain. And I think we have to resist it. I am disappointed in Stephen A. and other black men who are attached to the sport who don't even have, I don't believe, any ill will, but they've swallowed the narrative. These female basketball, these women, black women who built this league have done nothing wrong. And that includes what was upgraded after the fact, 24 hours later, a flagrant foul. That's what it's there for. It's basketball. And sometimes you're going to be on the losing end of that.
Yeah, and Stephen A., we played a clip yesterday where he was called out by a Black woman on his show for not covering Black women or women in general in the WNBA and now jumping on this bandwagon. What do you say, Ray, about that? There have been other phenomenal Black basketball players in the WNBA. And what I can remember reading stories about them always being attacked for their looks, as Sharon just said, looking too masculine, being attacked for being lesbians to the extent that they were. And this whole narrative around where nobody wants to come to the games to see these, butch looking, dyke looking Black women. And now all of a sudden, even the Black sportscasters that have big platforms like Stephen A. are, eating up the Caitlin Clark. Do you think that we should be calling out some of these guys saying, wait a minute, what about the Candace Parkers of the world, the Lisa Leslie's of the world? Okay, Sharon, I know a couple of names.
There it is. Yes.
What about these Black women? Why weren't they given more attention on Black platforms, at least, even if mainstream sports outlets wouldn't give them attention?
Well, one of the problems is that this is so new to everybody. Even some of the more veteran journalists like myself, I've been around women's basketball for a long time, but I never have been around it on this level of getting this much attention. And so this is different for a lot of journalists to try to adjust to this. And, some things may come out that you may wish you could redo and do a retake on it. But I think there's no ill will on Stephen A.'s part. Yeah. I think the thing with him and Monica that got a little heated was Monica, and I watched the segment, Monica had said she thought, she used the word probably, maybe there's probably some jealousy from the other players toward Caitlin Clark, but we know that it's way beyond that. There is a fire in a lot of these ladies' hearts to try to upstage her as best they can because they are jealous of her attention, and that's a human nature thing.
Wait a minute, Ray. Are they jealous or they're competitors?
There's both. It's both. Because even before she played her first game, there were a lot of players already chirping about, well, why is she getting all this attention? And she didn't even play her first WNBA game yet. This was going on between her last game at Iowa and the day she got drafted in the WNBA.
But does that happen in the sport whenever you have some hotshot rookie that comes on the scene?
It happens a lot.
We talk about men being jealous of are men
it happens a lot.
Steph Curry?
No, it does. It happens a lot. I mean, Michael Jordan went through it. In Michael Jordan's rookie year, they froze him out of the All-Star game because they thought he showed them up during the dunk contest, and there was some rumors going around that nobody wanted to pass to him in the All-Star game. Can you imagine that? Michael Jordan could not get his hands on the ball in an All-Star game. And there's some validity to that. Caitlin Clark probably did not imagine the level of scrutiny that she was going to face. This is a serious upgrade from college for her. She's seeing 8 or 9 players on every team that were All-Americans in college somewhere. So she stepped up big time in competition. So the people who thought she was going to just ease into the WNBA and keep firing these jumpers from the logo and hitting three-pointers everywhere, those days are over. She's going to have to kind of adjust her game a lot more now to get herself free for shots. She's got to work much harder than she did at Iowa, and I think that was not really known when she first came into the league. People should have got her ready for that more than what they did.
Well, welcome to the pros.
I want to talk about, hold that thought, Sharon. When we come forward, I want to talk about this notion of how this concept of jealousy and all these women that you say are jealous of her, is that same standard applied to men with other superstar male players? And then I want to talk about this notion that somehow this level of excitement and interest in the sport is going to translate into women getting bigger contracts so they don't have to go, as you said, overseas, because I have my doubts about that, being a civil rights lawyer and not having seen women reach parity pretty much in any profession in this country. So when we come forward, we'll continue this very interesting and heated conversation about what's happening in the WNBA, particularly around Black and white elite athletes. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
Listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Medicare Fraud Prevention Week focuses on the actions everyone can take to prevent Medicare fraud, errors, and abuse. Learn how to protect yourself and your loved ones by joining the Senior Medicare Patrol, or SMP, for Medicare Fraud Prevention Week, June 3rd through the 9th. Learn more at smpresource.org or by calling 1-877-808-2468.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Yeah. The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and we are going to run out of time because there is so much to talk about on this subject of Black women, white women, and the world of professional sports. But we're going to just go at it as long as we can. Sharon, Ray used the term jealousy, and I don't know, kind of triggering for me because I don't know if we hear that term associated with men. You know, I'm thinking cat fighting, petty, all of those pejorative terms that usually are associated with women and not men. Again, I'm going to ask you to draw on your vast knowledge as a sports reporter. You know, is that the kind of language that was heard when, you know, superstars like Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, and different ones came into the league?
Well, it may have been, but not routinely. Okay, women had this narrative where we're catty, jealousy is pervasive, and we just can't seem to support one another. The WNBA exists in its current form today because these women support each other. They even ousted, remember, their own team owner in Atlanta because they didn't agree with her statements, her politics, and racial undertones. That is what the WNBA is all about. But when you have someone like Caitlin Clark, who gets a $28 million, God bless her, contract from Nike, no one begrudges her that. These women aren't jealous of that, but it does defy logic. When you look at the top 10 athletes of all time for Nike, 7 out of 10 are Black. They're the most famous, gifted athletes in the world. They built this company. Phil Knight was a failed athlete who had the wherewithal to say, you know what? And sure, Michael Jordan was the first who he said, we'll give the whole marketing budget like the movie showed us. and we'll get him going. And they had lightning in a bottle. But if I were those athletes today, I would go to Nike and say, why can't Angel Reese command something like this? Why can't, another athlete? Why does Brittany Griner have that contract? Does she? I don't know. She has a book deal, but did Nike give her that kind of contract? And I don't even know what shoe company she's with, but these are the things that frustrate these world-class athletes, and they have a right to be frustrated. The physicality too is something that I just don't understand. What is so hard to get about this? It's a physical game. They're playing their hearts out. They're using skills. Their bodies are defined and built summer after summer. They're battling each other. And sometimes it gets really physical and someone's nose bleeds and people get hurt. And suddenly that means, oh, they're dirty. They're not feminine enough. It just defies logic.
Yeah, and I don't know, something about jealousy, I think, undermines what is really at stake here, which is the systemic racism.
Right.
So I don't know if I'm jealous of the white lawyer that gets $5,000 an hour when somebody's trying to give me 500.
That part.
I'm going to call out the disparities, the inequities, and that doesn't make me jealous. That just makes me cognizant and aware of the systemic barriers that Black people and in particular Black women face. David, in the last couple of minutes, talk to us about this gender parity, because Ray is optimistic that the excitement is going to translate into box office revenues that will then somehow trickle down to women, and women won't have to go overseas. Do you feel that same level of optimism?
Well, what I have seen more so in the college game than the pro game with this NIL, right? Passage of this legislation is that, and especially with the social media, is that a lot of these players are able to create their own narratives and create their own marketing tools and become millionaires when they're in college. And I think it's that combination that helped to elevate that, and of course, excellent play. Because if you watch a women's basketball game and you watch a men's basketball game, the skill level for the women is superior, and it's a more competitive and beautiful game to watch. But I think at the end of the day, we are a long way from parity because there's still this kind of notion that somehow the men are the real athletes and the women are just kind of the sideshow. When we start catching up with the actual stats, where like the last two women's finals have actually had a larger viewership than men, then I think we can begin to have that conversation. But the women themselves are going to have to push back. It's just not going to be something where someone's going to wake up and say, oh, you know what? Let's be free. Let's be equal. Let's have parity. That ain't going to happen without agitation. Like history is clear about that. The women are going to have to stand up and say, like the women's soccer team. The women's soccer team is the Olympic soccer team is a great example of what needs to happen for the women's game in basketball to come to that level. And they were obviously successful. I think they should be a model for what that looks like for them.
Yeah, and we should not forget that just in March of 2022, women college basketball players were posting photos and videos of how they got less food, less accurate COVID-19 testing, less exercise equipment. They were showing us the insides of their locker rooms, and it was deplorable compared to these, very elaborate locker rooms of men. So we are, I believe, a long way away from parity, and these women being at the height of this momentum is great. Robert is reminding us, Sharon, that Angel Reese got $2 million from Reebok. She did not get $28 million. So again, to my point about jealousy, it's not jealousy. It's just reality that if you are Black in this country, let's throw Michael Jordan and some of these other superstars out for a minute. But the reality is most of us are never going to get parity with our white counterparts, even when we are as good as they are, if not better than they are. So sports got a long way to go in terms of adjusting and addressing, I should say, racism as well as sexism, which still are both very, very pervasive, not only in women's sports, but I would venture to say some black men would tell you that they're out there working hard and not getting parity as well compared to their white players. Ray, any final thoughts on this? Give us some predictions. What's going to happen this season? Is Caitlin Clark going to win it all? Is she going to, be the great white hope that everyone thinks she is?
Well, we've seen right now that it's not going to happen right away for her. I don't even think she's going to win Rookie of the Year. I have a feeling that it's going to be a year-long struggle for her because now there's so much focus on her now. The pressure on her to just even walk into the building is already on her shoulders. And to be defensive of her a little bit, I just think that's maybe too much for her to bear as a first-time WNBA player. She's going to have to just spend maybe this season just trying to adjust to the pro game. She had it very easy in college. She didn't see the kind of defense that she's seeing now. She didn't see the kind of dog in some ladies that she's seeing now that want to stop her and shut her down in the open floor. So she's going to have to really spend some time to really just adjust her game and get used to being more physical than she ever had before. She'll be okay, but I'm not ready to crown her as Rookie of the Year or MVP right now. She is a long way from that. But I will say this: the game is in good hands.
Great.
There's a lot more women's awareness right now than ever before. And that's a good thing. That's the trade-off. That has to be the trade-off.
I'm looking at this clock, Ray, and you know what I got to do. I got to wrap everyone. This has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you all so much for your contributions. This is to be continued. Next voice that you hear will be Robin Ayers in the Raw Report right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
Official ports of entry. A Massachusetts teacher has been placed on leave after reportedly holding a mock slave auction in a